We're going to jump into John chapter 19. And we're going to do something kind of weird. We're looking at Jesus' trials this morning. Jesus is going to be condemned to be crucified. But we're going to start with the end. And I don't know why. It's just how it ended up on my notes. And I think it works. And so we're going to start with Jesus already having been flogged and beaten and mocked, the crown of thorns shoved on his head, standing before Pilate and the religious leaders. So let's jump in. John chapter 19, verses 12 through 16. From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar." All of a sudden, the religious leaders are so worried about Caesar. So when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement, and in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews, "Behold your king." They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priest answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So he delivered him over to them to be crucified. In our passage this morning, Jesus stands before us, meek and humble in heart, bearing the wounds of our sin on his body for our healing. Behold your king. In this scene, I think we catch a glimpse of a very important aspect of the human condition. The Creator stands under judgment beneath his own creation, denied and abandoned by his followers, declared unholy by those who are breaking the law of Moses by condemning an innocent man, condemned to death by a governor who knows that Jesus has no guilt. Every person in this story, every other person in this story, is scrambling to preserve self. Scrambling to self-preserve power and control, reputation, position, comfort. Peter self-preserves by denying Jesus. The religious leaders self-preserve through manipulation and force over Jesus. Pilate self-preserves by washing his hands of Jesus' murder. Give us the king who allows us to maintain our comfort and control in the moment. We have no king but Caesar. This unholy huddle formed by a bunch of people fighting to maintain their self-appointed identities. And in the midst of it all stands the Lord of hosts, beaten and belittled and facing the cross, not self-preserving, but willfully laying down his life for his accusers. Behold your king. After Jesus was arrested, Peter followed closely behind, but when he was asked if he was a disciple of Jesus, he denied him 3 times, just like Jesus had said right before the rooster crowed. And in the very moment, while Peter was self-preserving by denying Jesus, the religious leaders were self-preserving by dragging Jesus through a fake trial. And it went something like this. John 18, starting in verse 19. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered him, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all Jews come together. I've said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said these things, one of the officers standing by struck Jesus with his hand, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered him, "If what I said is wrong, bear witness about the wrong. But if what I said is right, why do you strike me?" Annas then sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Jesus was being tried here without proper witnesses, in secret, at night. And he said, "I've done all of this out in the open. Why are you asking me in secret about what I've done openly and everywhere?" They didn't like that answer. It exposed their guilt, exposed the ex-high priest here as a lawbreaker, not having a trial in accordance with Torah. Exodus 22:28 says, "Do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of your people." It seems as though Annas and his goon thought that Jesus was belittling Annas by pointing out that he wasn't actually doing things according to Torah. Funny thing is, they were the ones breaking the first part of that commandment. Don't blaspheme God. Jesus' words here actually sound like two passages from Isaiah. One in Isaiah 45 that says, "I have not spoken in secret, nor in a dark place of the earth. I said not to the seed of Jacob, seek vanity. Even I am Yahweh, speaking righteousness and proclaiming the truth." And Isaiah 48, "Draw near to me and hear these words. From the beginning I have not spoken in secret or in a dark place of the earth. When it took place, there was I. And now Yahweh, even the Lord, and his Spirit has sent me." Clearly messianic overtones, and even maybe a claim to be Yahweh himself. And Jesus echoes these words before the ex-high priest. He makes it clear he hasn't said anything that was untrue or ill-tempered toward Annas. Everything he's done has been open in the light. Jesus has acted and spoken just like his Father. He's fulfilling the law and the prophets. These religious rulers, on the other hand, the religious shepherds of the nation, the ones who are teaching everybody how to be like God. They're breaking Torah, acting contrary to the God they presume to serve, taking offense and striking Jesus for his words of truth while blaspheming him. Jesus had acted openly and in the light. They're trying him contrary to Torah, in hiding, in the dark, striking him without cause. Scrambling to preserve their self-serving religious authority. So then they drag him to Pilate. Verse 28, "Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning." Now get this. They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters so that they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover. So Pilate went outside to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered him, "If this man were not doing evil, we wouldn't have delivered him over to you." Not really an answer. Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." The Jews said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken, to show by what kind of death he was going to die. In other words, they wanted him to die. They couldn't, by Roman law, kill him, so they took him to Pilate so that he would be crucified, which echoes what Jesus said about his own death and the scriptures. Isn't it amazing, though, that they wouldn't go into the governor's headquarters because they wanted to remain ritually clean? Got to stay holy while you're condemning an innocent man to die, while you're playing power politics with your faith. It stinks so bad that this junk still happens, man, in the church. People will play power politics and crucify each other while going through religious motions to remain pure. It's gnarly, man. It's crazy how we'll self-preserve just like these religious rulers did. They were so worried about remaining ritually clean according to their understanding of the law of Moses, while they were dishonestly manipulating the situation to murder an innocent man, and not just any innocent man, but the one of whom Moses wrote. They make it clear they want Pilate's proclamation for Jesus to die on a Roman cross, just as Jesus in the scriptures had said. So Pilate examines Jesus. Verse 33. Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting that I might not be delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from the world." Then Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" And Jesus answered, "You say I'm a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I've come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" After he had said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, "I find no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" They cried out again, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a robber. Religious rulers are so bent on maintaining their order of things that they call for lawlessness to go free. They want to keep order by letting lawlessness go free. So they can crucify a man who has had no just trial. And the governor says there's no guilt in him. No reason for him to die on a Roman cross. These shepherds of God's people, leading God's people in his justice and mercy and faithfulness. But man, they've flipped the switch in their hearts and in their minds. And have you ever been there? You ever been there where you're fighting with someone or you're disagreeing with somebody and you know the loving way to be, but something just switches and you're just all in. You're all in for self-preservation. Trying to maintain control, you lose control. I mean, I can imagine how that would be. I'm nothing like these unevolved ancient morons. Yeah. They flip the switch in their hearts. They become ravenous for self-preservation. And they'll consume the innocent and set free the lawless to maintain control. They're just full-on brainstem, reptile brain, driving forward with their agenda. And Pilate, he's too politically correct to abide in justice and truth and integrity. His mantra is, what is truth anyway? What does truth matter? All that matters is getting a handle on this situation. All that matters is maintaining my political control. He thought maybe that if he held up the guilt of Barabbas against the innocence of Jesus, maybe that would snap the Jewish leaders out of their bloodlust. Didn't work. So, time for plan B. Maybe if I flog Jesus and beat him half to death and hold up this innocent man beaten half to death, maybe that'll be enough for the crowd and I won't have to crucify an innocent man. What a generous man Pilate is. So, John 19, verse 1. Yeah, maybe if Pilate has Jesus punished bad enough, even though he's guiltless, maybe that'll satisfy the religious rulers, these holy, ritually clean men. So Pilate took Jesus and flogged him. It's kind of an understatement. If you understand what that flogging was, we won't go into it today. It's for another time. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and arrayed him in a purple robe. They came up to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and struck him with their hands. Pilate went out again and said to them, "See, I'm bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no guilt in him." Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. John really understates what Jesus must have looked like. Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." When the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" That's not enough. Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no guilt in him." The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and according to that law he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid. He entered his headquarters again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you and authority to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no authority over me at all unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, he who delivered me over to you has the greater sin." And so now we find ourselves back where we started. Pilate wants to release Jesus but won't. The religious rulers are thirsty for innocent blood. We have no king but Caesar. They'll devote themselves to the rulers and the authorities of this world to see the King of heaven killed before they lose their sense of control and comfort. Jesus' disciples have run away. Peter's denied him. Pilate has washed his hands of him. Everyone but Jesus is scrambling to self-preserve. And at the center, bearing the wounds of our sin, Jesus offers himself and love for us all. Behold your King. We can all self-preserve like the religious rulers, trampling others with our holy crusades for truth, at least truth as we see it, blind to the Messiah in our midst as we attack the innocent. We can self-preserve like Peter, denying Jesus in moments of weakness. Hello? Not you, just me. We can deny Jesus like Pilate, compromising the truth for an easier hold on the situation. We all have tendencies to self-preserve. And listen, this good to acknowledge the truth. How we started off the whole service, still true. No shame, there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. But it's also healthy to be honest about our situation, that we can operate this way so that we can name the issue, that we can address the issue, right? Right. No shame. But we all have tendencies to self-preserve. That's why we lose our temper when someone cuts us off on the road. Like maybe at first, it's just like really righteous anger at putting us in danger or putting our family in danger. That's a proper emotion. But usually, let me tell you what I do. Here's what I do. I see it coming, and so I'll speed it up to make it worse than it really would have been. Anybody? Like you know they're about to cut you off. And instead of like slowing down to let them in, no, I speed up to make sure they know they're being intentional. They're jerks. Not me. And then, they put us in such danger. Yeah? Really? Just appalled that someone disregarded me, disrespected me, putting their wants in front of mine. Who are they to belittle me? Self-preservation. That's why we get angry when someone doesn't agree with us about an issue that's meaningful to us. Sometimes we have a hard time differentiating between our opinions and our identity. If someone disagrees with us on certain issues, We think they're attacking us. They just don't see it the way we see it. But we need them to see it the way we see it, to self-preserve. So we get defensive with our family, friends, and coworkers when they don't clean the coffee pot. Don't worry, I'll do it, Becca. Sometimes my self-preservation makes me turn a discussion about a specific issue around to all of a sudden be a fight about identity. Here's what it looks like. Son, I need you to clean your room. Like, buddy, on Easter time, you'll pick up 1 million eggs, no problem. I ask you to pick up 10 things in your room, and suddenly, like, I'm torturing you. Yeah, talking about Baxley, yeah. Son, we'll talk about that later. Don't assault my identity when I'm preaching. Yeah, real brave in the sound booth back there, buddy. So what do I say? I say, don't take that tone with me. Now, what do I mean when I say don't take that tone with me? Don't disrespect me. Now, if I'm being a good parent in the moment, I want them to respect people because I want to train them to be the kind of person that can hear and respond to the love of Jesus for themselves and for those around them. And so it's good to teach them to be respectful. A lot of times in the moment, what I really mean is, don't attack my identity. Who do you think you are? Now we're not even talking about the room anymore. Now we're fighting over our identities. Self-preservation. It's so funny. And for the record, Liam, in my notes, I do say, so funny how I'll try to defend my identity to a 5-year-old. But it works with you too, buddy. I may be doing it right now, I don't know. Self-preservation destroys the self I really want to be. I don't want to be at odds with people all the time. I don't want to be locked down, defensive. I need people, man. That's become more and more and more obvious to me the older I get. Even as I've actually become more of an introvert than I used to be. But even in that, it's more aware of how much I need people. And not just a phrase came to my head that I can't say. Not just in flippant discourse. You know, not just jokey, but like I need to be seen, I need to be heard. And I want to really know other people. I want to share that holy space of real connection. And I can't do that when I'm self-preserving. That's retreating. That's running away from the very thing I want to be. See, there's a part of me that I need to preserve. There's a part of me that's created by God that's supposed to be preserved. And when I self-preserve, I don't preserve myself. Here's how Jesus put it. Well before the day we've been reading about, Jesus said this: if anyone would seek to save her life, she will lose it. If anyone loses her life for my sake, she will save it. What's the point that Jesus is saying? Is he saying, don't preserve yourself, or is he saying preserve yourself? He's saying, save yourself. The word there is suke, life. It's suke. We get the word psychology from it. It's often translated soul. It's the you of you. It has that, yes, your life, but also like who you are, like the you of you. Save that. How do I save it? Lose it. Which doesn't make any sense, except from the conversation we've been having, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Jesus does not want us to lose our souls, ourselves. He wants us to save ourselves. When I lash out at others to preserve myself, I'm actually denying who I really am, who I was created to be. I was not created to be at war with others, swinging my perceived identity and importance at other people while they swing theirs at me like a big identity sword fight. I was created to reflect the self-giving love of the Trinity. I now exist so that I might follow Jesus, accepting more and more of his love for me and allowing myself to be defined by that self-giving love. This is the great capacity that God has created us with. As his image on earth, he has given us the capacity for his love. And in some way that if I'm honest, I don't fully understand and I don't think I can explain it, that capacity for his love is largely defined by this word: surrender. I don't think you can love or really be loved without surrender. Until you take off that armor, expose your vulnerable heart, let someone in, be honest about your weaknesses and failures and fears and needs, you won't experience being loved. And at the same time, to treat someone's vulnerable, exposed heart with care, compassion, empathy, mercy, and grace takes surrender. Let me say that again. To treat someone else as they expose their vulnerable heart, to treat someone like that with care, compassion, empathy, mercy, and grace takes surrender. Surrender of time, surrender of energy, surrender of judgment, surrender of the need to preserve my own identity in the midst of the tension. To surrender to someone in love is one of the scariest things to do in life, and it's the only thing in life that actually matters. And Jesus did that. Clearly he became a baby in a manger, became super exposed, super vulnerable, all that. But even with his disciples, like the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, "Guys, my soul is troubled to the point of death. Will you come pray with me?" He opened his heart, exposed his need. He wept at his friend's graveside. Man, hanging on the cross, he said, "I thirst." Why would the God of all creation be so humble and loving to expose himself to us like that? So we can, because he actually wants us to step into that holy space of real relationship with him. And so he says, man, if you want to be my disciple, deny yourself, take up your cross and die daily and follow me. That's not like a command to beat yourself up. It's an invitation into actual, real, true intimacy that only happens through surrender. Yeah. He's the one who will always treat your vulnerable, exposed heart with more care, compassion, empathy, mercy, and grace than you'll ever be able to fully experience. He's not afraid to surrender to be in a relationship with us. That surrender, you see, it's trust. It's a huge declaration of trust. So, in this season of life, for me right now, so worried about Sherry and concerned for Becca and the kids, managing my own issues surrounding grief, I find something welling up in my soul. I don't know how to name it. Something resembling rebellion. Not like rebellion, like I want to run to sin, but I don't want to accept it. I don't want to accept things like a rebellion against reality. And I'm not shaming myself. I'm just trying to understand myself. But I don't want to own my emotions. I don't want to own my choices. I don't want to. I want to cope my own way, smothering my feelings with food, smothering my feelings with just feeling sorry for myself, playing the victim, threatened by unhealthy thought patterns. And the only light I see at the end of the tunnel is surrender. Relational, trusting surrender. To let go and just receive what Jesus has for me and believe in the truth of his grace and the truth of his victory, that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Relational, trust-filled surrender to Jesus and his words. There's something about giving myself away to the trustworthy soul of Christ that actually gives me courage to own my own emotions and my own choices, to not play the victim, to remember and focus on my purposes and joys I have in Christ, to step into the relational presence of those around me, to let my needs be met by my brothers and sisters on this planet. The more I retreat toward myself and try to preserve myself, the more I see myself wither and burn out. The only path to victory I see is through surrender. And that certainly worked for Jesus. Everyone in today's passage was scrambling for self-preservation. The only one who really saved themselves in this episode was Jesus, who gave himself away. Jesus never compromised on his true self and his eternal purpose when he gave himself away. It's not giving yourself away with no boundaries of who you really are. Jesus was true to his purpose, his God-given identity. I mean, he is God. You know what I'm saying? Self-surrender doesn't mean denying of the true self. It's the way to save the actual self. It's because he knew his purpose was situated in the love of the Trinity, he could give himself away in the way that would truly save and preserve himself. So, like we touched on a little earlier, am I never going to say to my kids again, don't take that tone with me? Don't count on it, buddy. My purpose, because we're talking about a purpose-driven life, not a production-driven life or a performance-driven life. And my purpose in life is not to coddle my kids and try to make them happy every second of their lives. My purpose is to raise them in such a way that they'll be able to discern and respond to the love of Jesus in their own lives. So with that purpose in mind, I can say, hey, buddy, you don't need to take that tone with me. We treat each other with love, even if we're mad or sad or disagree. Let's try that again with a more loving voice and vocabulary. My purpose is not to prove to other people that I'm important or smart or pretty or powerful. My purpose is to share in the love of Jesus with those around me. So with that purpose in mind, I can clean the coffee pot and not say anything about it as an act of secret service, surrender, and love. Or I can say, hey, sometimes I feel taken advantage of when the coffee pot's left dirty. Can you clean it this week? I can share my feelings in a way that invites real intimacy in things that might seem little, like a dirty coffee pot, or in things that might be bigger, like addressing my friend's drinking problem or wrestling through disagreements on parenting. My purpose is not to be right, but as much as it depends upon me, to be at peace with everyone, to share in the love of Christ with those around me. So I don't feel like I'm less if people don't agree with my perspectives on Thai food, or politics, or Christian doctrines, or how the toilet paper should be situated on the holder. I can share my opinion, hey, get this, as an invitation for others to know me And I can listen to other people's opinions, not to build a case to make them agree with me, but actually to hear and understand them. And then we might, through understanding each other, grow together in knowledge and love. There's something about surrendering my need to preserve myself that allows me to save myself and share in the God-created self of others in Christ. I can die daily, take up my cross, and follow Jesus. And here's something that jumped out to me last night, actually, or this morning, I don't know, at some point when I was asleep. And it was meaningful to me. I think it's important to note. The only moment that you can surrender to God is this present moment. You can't surrender yesterday's struggles to God. You can't surrender yesterday's sins or failures to God. As much as those things affect you in this moment, you can surrender this moment to God. And in this moment, in sweet surrender, you will find Jesus treating your vulnerable, exposed heart with more care, compassion, empathy. Like literal, he empathizes with us. He knows what it's like to be human. He empathizes with our weaknesses. This is crazy. With more compassion, empathy, mercy, and grace than you can imagine. Because he is not afraid to surrender to be in relationship with us. You'll find him loving you, celebrating you, accepting you, delighting in you fully, perfectly, right now in this moment of surrender, regardless of what your last moment was like. In this moment of surrender, you'll find him delighting in you. No Hail Marys, no penance, perfect grace. Surrendering relationally to Jesus means stepping into the grace that establishes your true identity. Father, we love you. I pray that you would speak to each one of our hearts. Holy Spirit, you would speak to each one of our hearts and open our minds to see those little places where we can surrender, like coffee pots and traffic jams. And those big places where we can surrender to you, like in our relationships with our family, those hard relationships, in times of grief, of surrendering to trust you through it all. We trust you, Holy Spirit, to take your word and plant that into our souls, and water it, and produce a crop 100-fold of anything that we could conjure up on our own. So yeah, we're yours. Lead us and guide us to sweet surrender for your glory and for our joy. In Jesus' name.